I knew he was probably right, but I didn't care. The woman looked like she was in a tough spot, and maybe it wasn't any of my business, but I wanted to help, even if it just meant having her as an extra on the set. And if I was being honest, I was a little attracted to her. Not that it mattered. I probably wouldn't even talk to her. Richard sighed and stormed away. I sighed and sat back down. We were several weeks into shooting this movie, and the long hours were getting to all of us. I would have to try to not hold this against him, even if it annoyed the shit out of me. When it was finally time to shoot, I leaned back in my chair and watched as everyone got put into position. I spotted the extra Richard tried to fight me about. I was relieved to see her setting up on a beach chair, now dressed in a tank top, shorts, and sunglasses. Part of me had wondered if Richard was just going to escort her off the set himself, but luckily that wasn't the case. The woman leaned back in the chair, a book in her hands. It looked like she was actually reading it. I smiled. Richard had made a fuss over nothing, like usual. After the scene was set, the two lead stars, Sasha and Mark, got into position. Well, Sasha got into position. Mark practically stumbled out, laughing. Son of a bitch. He was fucking drunk. I glanced at Richard, who looked pissed. He went out to have a quiet conversation with Mark, who just nodded as if it wasn't a problem. I groaned. Mark had been a problem on set since day one. But the movie had already been announced with the cast chosen. Firing Mark would just cause a huge scandal online, and I didn't want that. Besides, the movie didn't have the budget to recast and reshoot. Richard went back to his chair and called action. The scene began. Mark snapped into character as if he was stone-cold sober. At least he wouldn't fuck up the scene. I watched him and Sasha act out their fight. At least Sasha was a pro. Even with the last-minute changes to her lines, she acted it out perfectly, including shoving Mark on the chest. But his eyes widened as he stumbled back, losing his balance, and crashed right into the extra reading her book. The chair broke under the weight of them both, and they fell to the ground with a thump. Gasps rose up from everyone as people rushed to see what the problem was. Richard called for the cameras to stop rolling. Mark pushed himself to his knees, muttering apologies. I ran over and pushed my way through the crowd. I had to make sure she was all right. Fuck, if she got hurt? But no, I couldn't think about that. I looked at the medic, who was struggling to get through the crowd with a first aid kit. "Give them some room," I called out. "Everyone back up." People backed up, muttering a little with worry, but also irritation. The medic was finally able to push through to get to the two actors. The woman was on the ground, wincing a little and trying to move off the pile of rubble on the ground. As she tried to stand up, she let out a small yelp and froze. I knelt next to her and could see the problem immediately. The wooden handles of the chair had broken, and part of one had stabbed her leg. "Medic, over here!" I shouted. The medic was trying to make sure Mark didn't have a concussion, even though he wasn't the one who took the most damage. I tried to brush my irritation aside, but I couldn't help it. An idiot could see the woman should have gotten the help first. The medic turned, and her eyes widened when she saw the woman's leg. Holy shit. "Do I need to go to the hospital?" the woman asked. "Please tell me no. I can just go home and sleep it off, right? I can't afford the hospital." She put her hand over her mouth as if it was the only way to stop herself from talking. "Don't worry about that," I said. "I'll cover you." She looked up at me with wide eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I snorted, as if this was her fault. "You have nothing to apologize for," I said. "Just relax and let the medic do her job." Slowly, she nodded. I smiled. "I'm Christopher, by the way." "I'm Anna."